All right, what's up, everyone? It's the last MMA Outsiders episode of the year. I'm Zain Bando. He's Jack Gold. Jack, we're going to do something a little bit different today. Something we haven't done during, I guess, Arston on the show, but something I do every year. Do you sort of want to go into what that is before we start and just kind of talk about where we've been? Because we were supposed to do this episode last week. We decided to postpone it to this week. And would you like to give a little overview scope as we get rolling?
Yeah, no, for sure. We have the award ceremony, the 2025 MMA Awards. We pretty much exclusive UFC. So we're going to say the UFC Awards. But we have every category you could think of. We delayed it a week. We had the holidays going on. But with the delay, we were able to make a full-blown presentation to go along with it this time. So up to you how you want to start it. But
Yeah,
you run
so
the
in
show.
So again, just as a reminder, I'm Zan Band. I'm a staff writer for MMA Knockout. Jack is a independent MMA content creator. You can follow his work over at Jack Gold MMA. You can listen to the MMA Outsiders wherever you get your podcasts. We're live on a bunch of different platforms at the moment. My YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Kick, and a bunch of other platforms. So just wanted to get that out of the way really quick before we get started. So without further ado, here is Jack's self-made 2025 MMA Outsiders Award ceremony. Jack, take it away. I'm adding it right now.
Wonderful. Yes, we have the awards ceremony. I was cheaping out on this one, so we've got the Canva watermark, but we're rocking and rolling. Starting off with the MMA Outsiders end of the year MMA Awards ceremony, we've got the knockout of the year. Now, we've had some great knockouts and we've had some honorable mentions on here as well. But our knockouts of the year, Zan, take it away.
Yeah, so I was in attendance for this one. Lerone Murphy fighting Aaron Pico at UFC 319 in Chicago. You were also there. I was on press row for not quite. I was in I was actually in the media tent watching this fight, but nonetheless, though, Aaron Pico making his UFC debut against a rising contender in Lerone Murphy, who had just burst onto the scene within probably about a year or so, but no one really knew who he was. His biggest resume win to this point was Edson Barboza fighting a former Bellator veteran and viciously knocking out Pico with one of the nastiest knockouts I've ever seen. It was a stretch of, I think it was back-to-back spinning back elbow knockouts on the same night. So you're going to hear a little bit more about UFC 319 later on in the stream, but this is a little bit of a teaser as to where I'm kind of going with some of these awards. So that is my pick for the 2025 Knockout of the Year.
In my pick is Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree at the very next event at UFC 320. Now, I think the reason this one did it for me, because I think there were objectively better knockouts. However, Yuri was down 2-0 going into the third round. The crowd was kind of like, oh no, Yuri's cooked. I was here for this one. And then the third round starts and Yuri Prohaska starts doing his hiya, 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 starts going crazy at him, goes nuts, and with a minute and a half to go, lands a left hook that puts Khalil Roundtree out, flattens him on his face. And I think that was maybe the craziest I've ever felt in the arena until the main event of that card. But we will be talking about that later as well. Now, I also have some honorable mentions for these knockouts because, like I said, there's even more than this that I couldn't mention, but I wanted to do Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva. That's a personal fight of mine that I loved. We have Ricky Simone versus Javid Bashrat, and I think what made this one even more spectacular to me is my hatred towards Javid Bashrat. So seeing Ricky Simone flatline him like that, it was a real treat in Seattle. We've also got Gregory Rodriguez flatlining Jack Hermanson, maybe a little less spectacular after the Oralbine knockout, but nonetheless a very fun knockout. And we had to mention the Mauricio Huffy spinning back kick. I think that was beautiful.
Yeah, so I think overall all of those are solid. Whichever way you would have gone with those, I would have been completely okay with. So just something to keep in mind that I wholeheartedly believe that this was a great year for knockouts and an underrated year because we got to see a lot of guys that don't usually get the spotlight that they do so deserve. And this was one of those years that did exactly that. So those were some solid options. You want to move on now to event of the year.
I do. Before we do, I also want to say with the amount of knockouts, it truly felt like I feel like every year we have these spectacular submissions, where this year was the year of the knockout, and then we were kind of lacking on the submissions.
Yeah, for sure. Which is why this is the little teaser, which is why my submission of the year, which is coming up later, is probably when you're like, yeah, but when you look at the grand scheme, it's like, okay, how many choices did you really have? So
Exactly. That's kind of how I felt as well. I was just like, I don't really know. Like there was no twisters, no crazy. Like I guess you could have gone with Walter Walker. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. With the events of the year for both of us, we've kind of already previewed them because it's UFC 319 and UFC 320. Zan Bando, take it away.
sure. So obviously, I was probably, well, I don't think you, yeah, actually, yeah, I don't think you were fully a part of here yet, but this was an event from the day it was announced. It was an event that I was hyping up for months. I'm like, this is the UFC's return to Chicago. This is going to be a great event. Obviously, with Chimaev and DDP headlining, which I can say now was not supposed to be the original headliner. In fact, these two events were probably going to be flip flopped in an alternate universe, but nonetheless, that's the fight we got. And obviously, of course, first event since 2019 could not have been any bigger. I was getting texts from people, Jack, that I hadn't heard from in years asking me how to get tickets. That's how excited people were because it was just something for people to do. There were people, I know I'm not going to name names on here, but there were people at that event that know nothing about the UFC that just wanted to see the spectacle of what it was like because it never comes here really at all.
I'm not gonna name names either. I was so excited for this, but my friends were saying that loosely. Acquaintances that I know who don't give a fuck about UFC. Me and my boy, I could tell you, set the scene. Me and my buddy, we're watching 317 downtown
Okay.
at our buddy's house. It's at a party. Me and my buddy, we don't really drink. We're watching 317.
Okay.
My two mutuals come up and they're like, "Yo, we know you guys love UFC. Like, are you going to Chicago?" And me and my buddy were like, "Oh, we don't know. It's pretty expensive." And these two are like, "Yeah, well, we bought suite tickets for $1,500 a piece. Like, I don't know if you're going, but I know we're going." And I was just like, "Fuck you guys, dickheads." But anyway, I was there. It was a great time. Fuck those suites. Fuck those guys. But long story short,
That's
the
awesome.
build up and hype for Chicago is insane. And
Dude, I'm just gonna say this. This is coming from a guy who went to McGregor Poirier 3. The level of hype for this event is the literal Chicago equivalent of what I experienced in Vegas for 264. Like that has to be like, dude, I went back and looked at the numbers, like 970,000 people watched the weigh-in for that event, crying out loud. Like if you would have told me 6 years ago that the post-fight press conference with Hamzat Chimaev would get 1 million views, that the pre-fight press conference would get 1 million views, and that we'd have a brand new champion in the UFC's return to Chicago, if you would have told the 2019 version to be that, I don't know if I would have believed it.
yeah,
So
like I have been to my fair share of events now. You've been to way more than I have. I've never felt a city totally flip upside down for UFC like that.
yeah, the closest I'm just going to allude to this again. The closest I've seen is Vegas, but 319 for me is up there for sure. At least in terms of Chicago events, I've been to all of them except for Home Shevchenko. This one, without a doubt, had the most amount of hype, and it wasn't even in close. I went to 238. I went to 225. I even went to UFC 90. That was the first one they ever did in the state, and nothing compares to what UFC 319 was. 225 and 238 were for the hardcore fans. The Fox cards were for the hardcore fans. This brought out people that had never seen it before. I don't think So
And this was probably my second event. Maybe the last event of the year was my second event. But this was top 3 for sure, just because Lerone Murphy Pico knockout was insane. Protest versus Jeff Neal knockout, insane. MVP versus Cannonier, fun fight. Tim Elliott versus Asakura, didn't see that coming. Sursurkayev,
no way.
awesome fight with Nolan. My boy GM3 got nuked, not ideal, but I love.
And I knew that Suzurkayev was going to fight pretty quickly. But if you would have told me that he would be fighting the very next week, I don't know if I would have believed that either.
He fought Saturday that week. He fought on Tuesday of the same week.
Yeah, it's the quickest turnaround in UFC history. It's pretty insane. And now, and that's a little teaser for a little later. But I think the UFC is getting a pretty good ROI because he's already delivered. So
I agree. But the whole card, Lupi versus Andrade, banger. Hernandez versus Chase Hooper, buzzer beater knockout. Crazy. We had Edzard versus Jakar Close, Karine Silva, Alibi versus Bopo. Like, that was an awesome card.
Yeah, and we also had, and it was supposed to be 2 of them, but we also had Myron Santos, or at least I think it was no.
We lost Diego Fajeda versus Bobby Green, and we lost Brian Battle versus Nursultan Ruzaboyev. And losing those 2 fights plus the main event being terrible is why I picked UFC 320 being my
you're missing one more though. You're missing one of the Ultimate Fighter finales that didn't happen.
Danilo versus Enzenato as well, which ended up being a very fun fight.
Yeah.
So I think those things kind of docked it a tiny bit for me. But man, and listen, UFC 320, I was there as well, and it was a complete opposite feeling. Like, I felt like no one in Vegas, pardon my language, they couldn't give a fuck less. That
did UFC 320. Because you were there, I'm curious. Did it seem like a ghost town?
Ghost town. I felt like I was the only one there. It was so dead. I was at Syndicate Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday of Merab's championship fight week, and they were just like, whatever.
Wow. Okay. That's rare for a Vegas fight.
Very odd. Like, typically, like the December one, it was packed.
And I'm sure the UFC was low-key pissed though, because they had their September plans messed up. That's probably why. And I'm going to throw this at you. You may not know this, Jack. It's the first time in 20 years that there wasn't a September UFC numbered event.
Yeah, it was because it was supposed to be Guadalajara and the arena wasn't ready.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But, and the other thing with this 320 fight, I think the thing that was awesome with 319 is it started so hot and it maintained it, but you left the arena kind of on a dull note. You know what I mean? You kind of felt meh.
Yeah, 320 at the end of it, you felt amazing because
you walked out of this card on a high that I've never felt before.
It's like, oh shoot, Alex Brewer's legitimately back. And I did a victory lap because I correctly predicted that he would win in the first round, and he did. I was so excited.
Like, and it's not only that, it's like setting the scene. It's like the first fight of the night, terrible. Chris Gutierrez versus Farid Basharat, absolute stinker.
That's right. It was an awful fight.
Macy Chasson versus Yana Santos, boring.
Well, no disrespect, but when is Yana Santos fight not boring? And this is no disrespect to her. This is just the fighting style she has. So it is what it is. But
no, I agree. Even Puna Soriano versus Nikolay Varetnikov, which is supposed to be a fun fight, boring.
Well said. Well said. And shout out to the 15 people that are watching. We know it's a Friday afternoon. And thanks for taking a little bit of time to
thank you for being here.
To us ramble a little bit.
But starting the next prelims portion, though, the preliminary card, after you got through those first 3.
Right.
Or the first 4. Because also, I missed 2 as well because Ramiz subbed Vanderford. That was a good one. And I was pissed on that one because I had money on Vanderford. And then Veronica Hari beat Brogan Walker, and I was sitting right next to Brogan Walker's family. So the early prelims, weird vibes to start it off.
Mm-hmm.
The prelims, you come in with the prelims instantly.
Now, wait. I have a question. with you sitting next to a fighter's family, they don't do the thing where they kick the family out of the arena when their
No,
fighter
they
is.
bought tickets. We were in the upper deck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
but
Okay.
starting off the regular prelims, Edmund Shabazian KOs Andre Muniz. Cinema. Then we get to see Patchy Mix versus Jacob Wicklax, which was not ideal because I was hanging out with Patchy's coach the night before, and we were talking about this fight. And Wicklax he came to fight, a lot of kicks, fought off his back well,
He
got the
did,
W.
and no one knew who he was Saturday morning, but everybody knew who he was Sunday morning.
For sure. So those first 7 fights, not ideal. Fun,
Right.
but not ideal. The next 7 fights, generational. Daniel Santos versus Yu Jang-soo or Yu Ju-sang, whatever his name is. Korean McGregor.
Unbelievable fight.
First round, this Korean dude is mogging Daniel Santos. He's horrifying.
Unbelievable
his
fight.
ass. Second round, instantly, Wiley Cat knocks him out silly, and the whole arena goes wild. Next fight, a sacrificial lamb. Tristan Vines a Teva Gautier featured prelim. Cinema. Hilarious. Great time. First fight of the pay-per-view. Joe Pyfer versus Abus Magomedov. I've got a blood feud with Abus. Watching turn the body cam off Joe Pyfer, submit him, made me pretty happy. Hit him. It was a good fight. Yusuf Zalal, Josh Emmett. This one puckered my butthole a little bit because I love Yusuf Zalal. People hate on the style. I don't give a fuck. That's my dog. One of the first UFC fighters to ever give me an interview. Ride or die with my Moroccan Devil. Instant submission. I was like, woo! It couldn't have been better. Next fight, Yuri versus Khalil. Shitty first 2 rounds. The third round, best round I've ever seen of fighting. It was
unbelievable.
Call me crazy again, pardon my language. That was Yuri retard maxing to peak in the third round, going crazy. Just saying
that was the 2022 version.
Literally, it was like you have to kill me. It was like you must kill me or I will kill you.
It was like, what year is it? That's what I was thinking.
That was glorious. Merab versus Sandhagen, call me crazy. I had a fun time in that fight. That was fun. And then 80 seconds on the dot, Alex Pereira knocks out Ank. You leave like it's an instant KO victory. It's like flawless. You're like, what is happening? But
yeah, it was definitely one of those events that you'll look back on and you'll earmark it for sure. No question. For some honorable mentions, though, if I didn't pick UFC 319, I would have probably.
I'm just letting my dog in.
No, all good, all good. So for some honorable mentions, I would have picked probably UFC 317 would have been one of them. I would have probably picked. Well, we'll get to this in a bit. I would have probably picked
311 if Sarukian was on the main event still could have been generational.
311 probably would have been up there. And then this is going to sound well, actually, no. It would probably go for me 319, 317, and then 314 because the last
I was just going to say,
yeah,
the one I still think these two are my favorite, but definite third was Miami 314. Volk gets his belt back. And Patty beats on Chandler. I thought that was a very fun card.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun card as well. But let's kind of get off the soapbox of event of the year because we have some interesting categories coming up, starting with the submission of the year.
All right, Zan, put it out there.
So your pick is probably better than mine, and it was the one fight I wasn't thinking of. Dern versus Hebos, simply because Mackenzie Dern. This was a master class. She didn't have to finish Amanda Hebos, but she did anyway. And to see her walk out with her daughter afterward, I just thought it was a cool beginning. Like, okay, the vibes are high. The first month of the year is going to be good. And it took a while for the cards to get their wheels under them. But I thought this was a good first start because it showed that Dern was still a threat because her 2024 to be frank, could have been a little bit better. So to see her start off on the right trajectory, I thought was good. And this was just devastating for Hebos because she was trying to show that she could hang with the upper echelon of the division, and to see her lose the way that she did was shocking. But yours is certainly more of a statement, and this is probably one I would have agreed with had I thought of it sooner. But and I'm not going to steal your shine here. What did you think of uh, Anthony Hernandez? Anthony Hernandez's generational win over Roman Dolidze, which is why the middleweight division is as much of a mess as it is at this current moment going into 2026.
Not only a generational win or a generational performance, that was a generational hate watch of Roman Dolidze. I can't stand Roman. And listen, I like most fighters, just can't stand him. Anthony Hernandez's run right now, generational. Rodolfo Vieira dominated him. Josh Fremd, don't know how he doesn't finish Josh Fremd, but hey, dominates him. Dominates Marc-Andre Barrios. Dominates Edmund. That hurt me. I like Edmund a lot. Dominates Roman Kopylov. Dominates Michelle Pereira. That was a fun watch. Literally might have been the worst beatdown I've ever seen.
It just sucks. It just sucks the way the Vancouver situation played out the way it did.
I agree. I disagree actually, because I'm a big BA guy. Like, as long like Fluffy, he's gonna beat on Sean Strickland, I think, in Houston.
I think so.
I think he's rocking and rolling. I'm happy.
And I think Strickland too. His head just isn't in the right place because A, he's been out for so long, and B, he's still fighting with the demons of him getting suspended, and I think that's going to kill him. So
I agree. And
he's not the same Strickland that he was 2 years ago. So
and Hernandez drowns you, man. He drowns you.
I know this is another like, to me, and I know we're not even in the late February yet, but to me, that's one of those fights where it's like, okay, if Hernandez destroys Strickland, it's like the UFC can't deny you now. You know what I mean? So
middleweight title challenger has never won. They've never had to win more than 8 fights to get a title shot. And Anthony Hernandez is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So with this Sean Strickland fight, he will have gone on the longest win streak in middleweight history without receiving a title shot.
You learn something new every day. I had zero idea that was the case. I always thought that welterweight was the culprit of that, but it's interesting that middleweight is joining the conversation. Okay.
So that's interesting. But yeah, that was 18 minutes of Anthony Hernandez dogging Roman Dolidze. Next up, you have any final thoughts? Any honorable mentions? I can't even think of any honorable mentions.
Oh, geez.
Maybe Walter Walker. Walter Walker getting some heel hooks.
Yeah, Walter Walker's heel hooks are definitely up there. I don't know. Merab submitting O'Malley, he's got to be up there too. I mean, the way he just destroyed him in the second fight was ridiculous. So,
yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think this was the year of the knockout. I think next year we'll see what happens.
All right.
But now, after this, we've got the fighters of the year. And listen, this was a unanimous decision vote from both of us. We've got Merab Dvalishvili and Valentina Shevchenko. How can you not pick both of them? Even coming off a loss, what Merab did was
and I was gonna say, for any of the haters that don't think that Merab deserves this, is crazy. He was literally trying to make UFC history on his own accord. He didn't have to do it. Number one, and number two, it just goes to show that even though Peter Yan is getting up there in fight age years, like, wow, to see him go to the level that he did to win that second fight, and the way he was able to dominate Merab in the championship rounds, I mean, that just goes to show you, A, how good Peter Yan is still, and B, how tough Merab is anyway, taking that punishment. Most guys would have folded after
I was going to say, and Merab never quit. Like, he was still he pushed forward that entire fight, even when he was losing. Like, he never strayed from the game plan. Was Peter Yan piecing him up? Yes, he was. But guess what? Merab said, I don't care. I'm coming for you. Didn't get the job done, but I think he gets the belt back in the third fight.
Yeah, I think he gets the belt back in the third fight. I'm curious to see when the third fight will be.
And take it away on Shevchenko. I'll be back in 60 seconds.
Sure. As I was saying, I don't know what that means for the rematch itself in regards to in regards to when the rematch may happen, but I think it goes to show, if it showed anything, those guys are number one and number two in their division. And to me, at least right now, even though bantamweight is stacked, it's not even close. All right, let's talk about the female fighter of the year. And this one was kind of unanimous because of the super fight aspect. So you get Valentina Shevchenko welcoming Weili Zhang to the 125-pound division. Obviously, Weili unfortunately is beltless because the UFC had to go in a different direction regarding the strawweight division. She had to vacate that title, so obviously Mackenzie Dern is now the champion there. As such, um, yep, because Mackenzie Dern won her fight in October, so that kind of changed everything. So obviously Valentina gets it here because of who she beat, because of the caliber of women's MMA fighters that she's defeated over the years. This was just another stamp in her legacy. This is now her second reign as the UFC. She's in the midst of her second reign as the UFC flyweight champion, and I think she's going to be holding on to that belt for quite some time. I really don't think there's too many major contenders for her to compete against. So I think, and then I'm going to back up and say what I just said, but I think
I heard you the whole time.
You did. Okay. So anyway, with what I was saying, I don't think there's too many contenders really for Valentina to fight, which I think is good news for her, because she can take this long extended break of 6 to 8 months where she doesn't have to worry about anything because, and this is no disrespect, it's just the quality of women's MMA we have right now. The division is so shallow that none of these fights really make any sense. I mean, if you want to do another Grasso fight, I mean, I guess you could, but we've already seen that fight 3 times. Who
Is
wants to?
Natalia Silva flyweight or strawweight?
I'm gonna double check that. But
Because she might be the savior of this division.
Please keep talking as I do this. Hang on.
No. So, like, my thing is, Valentina, she won unanimously because of her wins and what she did with Zhang Weili. But I will say she has been boring.
Natalia Silva is a flyweight.
So I think up next will be Natalia Silva. But the problem with the Natalia Silva fight is, as awesome as she is on the feet, we don't know how she is off her back. And Valentina has become Valentina Nurmagomedov. You know what I mean? Like, she has become the control freak. So we'll see how that goes. And I think, like you said, I think Valentina is going to be keeping her belt for a long time.
Yeah.
Next up.
And I was gonna say too, like, I mean, this just goes to show how dominant she was in her first reign. She may even be better in her second reign. So,
and now in this category, this is Zan's recommendation because we have all new champions. So we wanted to pick who our favorite new champion was. And both of us kind of were cop-outs because we didn't pick new champions. We picked kind of new champions. We have Islam and Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah, so Volk is a bold one. But yeah, Islam, simply just because to dominate 2 weight classes, and you could say whatever you want about the Tarzukian situation, as unfortunate as it is, but to go up to welterweight and fight a guy who hadn't been beaten in over a decade and then won 18 fights in a row, and to do so in the way that he did was just, to me, unbelievable. If he isn't number one in the world in almost everybody's mind, I don't know who is at the moment. I personally think he's been number one for quite a bit. Volk is a solid pick. The only thing, though, is I don't think you're going to be saying that same thing when we look back at the end of 2026, because this just happened to be a perfect storm of Volk waiting his turn, some madness happening in his division, Ilia, moving up, and of course that's what happened, and that's how he was able to win. And now he happens to be fighting Diego Lopez again, which you and I had a whole debate on, and I'm still not a huge fan of it. But will I watch the fight anyway? Of course I will. But yeah, I think it was an interesting year because of the parity in all the divisions, the belts changing hands overall. Like, dude, I had to go back almost 20 years to find a year where every single champion was different than the one before. Usually, you'd have one or two that were the same. I mean, I guess you can say, I guess you can say that Aspinall still by definition. Well, actually, you can't because he wasn't the champion at the beginning of 25. My point in saying it is though is it was a weird year for champions overall, but to me, Makachev was an easy pick simply because he moved up to welterweight. He beat a guy that had won 18 in a row, and I'm just going to be honest. Had he lost, my pick would have been very difficult. So,
see, and that's why here's my reasoning for picking Volkanovski, my goat.
Okay.
I think if you go through the division, the reason I picked Volk is because he is, by my standards, the best champion in MMA right now. Because if you go through the list, like Josh Van just won on a 30-second arm break. I'm a Van sexual. I love Josh Van, but I think he's got some tough fights ahead of him, and I don't think he defends his belt. Like, I think whoever he fights next beats him, and then it's going to be a revolving door of people fighting each other. You know what I mean?
See, I don't think he loses to Tyra. I think he loses the fight after that.
I think he loses the Cap, and I think the Cap fight is going to get made before the Tyra fight. So I think we're on the same page because I think he beats Tyra as well.
Okay. So you actually think they'll give it to Cop before they give it to Tyra?
I think so. And then at bantamweight, we have Peter Yan. But now there's going to be a revolving door of are we going to get a Sugar Peter Yan 2 match? Like, that's fun, but is Sugar a champion?
Wait a minute. But this is assuming that you think that O'Malley's going to beat Song Yadong. I mean, he has to do that first before we can even talk about that.
If O'Malley is anywhere near where we ever thought he was, he should beat Song Yadong.
But do we really think that the UFC is going to prioritize a Yan O'Malley 2 fight? Versus,
I think it'll be a Merab fight again.
Yeah,
Merab wins that rematch, so that's why I couldn't pick Yan.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
At lightweight, there's no champion.
Right.
At welterweight, we have Islam, but my problem with Islam is he's not going to fight any of the welterweights. He's going to fight Kamaru Usman and dip.
I know that's the major elephant rumor that's going around that hasn't fully been confirmed, but a lot of people are talking about it, which is
that's my same problem with Chimaev. He's sitting around playing touch butt in the park with whoever he's doing it with instead of fighting Imavov, who he's gonna run through. But he's got to run through Imavov, and then he's got to fight the contenders in the division. He's waiting. Supposedly, he's moving up to 205. Speaking of 205, I love Pereira. He carried the UFC forever, but he's done carrying the UFC. He's done with 205. He's moving up to heavyweight, and our heavyweight champion's fucking blind. So the reason I'm taking Volk is he's the only champion in the UFC right now that will take on any comer. He was ready to take on Movzar. He's ready to take on Lerone.
So do you agree with, because I personally do, I'm going to ask you because I don't know. Do you agree with Volk's sentiment that he will not retire after the Lopez rematch?
I don't love that. I
don't think he does. I think he retires in 3 more fights. That's what I
want him to just win this fight. But see, and I understand it too, because I think he beats Lerone and Movzar, but I don't know if he beats Diego again. But that's the other reason why I liked him and picked him, because I think out of all the champions or all the challengers who he had to beat, or all the champions beat to get there, I think arguably Diego was the most dangerous, and especially for a guy coming off 2 vicious knockout losses.
Right, exactly.
So I think Volk has earned my stay. I think Islam deserves it as well. It peeves me that we're not going to see Islam versus Michael Morales, Carlos Prates, Ian Gary. I would love to see Ian Gary versus Islam Makhachev, but I think it's more likely that we see Kamaru Usman.
Okay.
Next up, we've got the best UFC Apex event of 2025. Zan might have some recency bias. I'm going back in time. We've got the last UFC event a year and February 15th Apex event of Cannonier versus Rodriguez.
Hey, these are solid picks, but I'm going with Royval versus Cop because for a few reasons. One, it felt like a bigger, in huge air quotes, Apex event because of the fact that they were no longer going to be on ESPN again. So you couple that with the fact that your boy over here nearly went undefeated. So I was freaking the hell out the whole night because my picks were killing it. So so I was all excited. And then number 3, you get the call out of the year from Cop to fight for a world title against Van, who's out of his Pantoja fight unscathed because of the unfortunate circumstances, and then you end with a fade to black close out cinema style ESPN tribute. To me, I don't think you're going to get a better Apex event for at least the next little bit, and it couldn't have gone better just in terms of excitement. Usually these Apex shows drag. Usually by the time you get to the main event, you're exhausted. I do remember Cannonier Rodriguez, but to be frank with you, because of how many UFCs there are, I won't remember it on the level of detail that this event was just because it was so recent. So I'm using recency bias as a shield here to tell you that given all the circumstances and given that my picks were firing at almost a 100% clip, that's my reasoning for the last UFC Apex event to ever air on ESPN. But please, the floor is yours. Dive into why you think this mid-February card takes the cake as the best Apex event of the year. So,
Give some concessions with this one because this would have been different if we would have just said best fight night of the year. It would have been UFC Paris. But for this best Apex fight night, we're so used to poop. But this main event, Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodriguez, legendary. Co-main event, we're not going to talk about it. Featured fight of the night, co-main event, Calvin Kattar, Yusuf Zalal. Zalal got the win. Don't think about the fight too much. No. Featured fight of the night, Edmund Shabazian versus Dylan Budka. Smoked Budka. Get Budka out of here. Then we've got Nazim Sadikov versus Bonfim. Sadikov masterclass, doctor stoppage. Petrosky versus Vieira. Weird fight, can't lie. Delgado nukes Connor Matthews. Angela Hill beats Ketlin Souza. Rafael Estevam.
In a fight that I thought Hill was going to lose. I was really, really surprised.
I agree, and I thought Aguilar beat Estevam, but I think I'm the only person on earth who thinks that. Gabriel Bonfim got the submission, put Chaos Williams to sleep. Elijah Smith, very fun fight versus Vince Morales.
No. What's funnier about that, Jack, is he chaosed Williams.
That's right.
That's what he did.
And then Walter Walker, Dontel Mays, we got the heel cook. And Jacqueline Cavalcanti versus Julia Avila is a fun fight. Like, it was fun watching Julia Avila, no disrespect, kind of get bounced from the rankings that she didn't deserve to be in.
Fair enough.
But next up, after these Apex fights, we've got the worst UFC events of the year. Let's take it away.
Yeah, so you're very harsh with your pick. I'm just gonna be straight. A fight that doesn't have the main event on the poster is an easy worst event of the year. First off, this is one of not just the worst UFC event of the year, in my humble opinion. This is one of the worst UFC events I've ever sat through. I have no idea why I subjected myself to this. There was other stuff on that night. I think there was even NBA playoff basketball that night, if I remember. I subjected myself to one of the worst UFCs ever, easily the worst Apex event ever, with the most unfortunate ending to a card that I've ever seen. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Ludovit Klein ended up being the last fight that occurred on that card. So now when you go on Fight Pass, the poster is of the co-main event and not the main event itself, which obviously is a horrible look. And of course, what happened to Macy Barber. I'm not taking anything away from that because it was a serious situation, but a fight that was built. Literally, they had played the sizzle reel. They were about to walk out, and then poof, the fight doesn't happen. So that's my pick for for worst event of the year overall. I'm not sure what I would have picked as the worst pay-per-view of the year. Yours isn't bad, but if I were to redo this again and just talk about pay-per-views, I probably would have told you UFC 312 or UFC 315, but nonetheless, I digress. Take it away with UFC 321, which had one of the most tragic and unfortunate endings to a heavyweight title fight that I have ever seen in a real low point for 2025 that overall a lot of people thought was kind of a very a tipsy turvy type year in terms of just consistently good cards. So
now this for both of these cards, I think I'm a little biased because Barber Blanchfield, I was out with my friends at a bar watching NBA basketball, had this on the side, and we got this. Your pick is just all goofy. Like we got a Jordan Levitt classic choke. That's fun to me. We get a Zachary's decision. Insane. But the last three fights of the night are low-key kind of bangers. Like Dustin Jacoby absolutely nuking Bruno Lopez made me a shitload of money and made me laugh. Ramiz Brahimaj choking out Billy Goff made me laugh because Ramiz is a Chicago guy. Then I reached out to Billy Goff to do my TV show for my school, and he said no thanks. So seeing my Chicago boy put him out with the ref cam was kind of funny. And main event, I'm a big Gamrot guy. Gamrot got the dub. He should have been the main event the whole time. And with the Blanchfield thing, I think it was just it was so funny and goofy to me where it was like the main event's ready to go. The sizzle reel's rolling. Blanchfield's ready to go. And Macy can't be found. She's in the back doing her own thing. Now, the reason I pick UFC 321, yes, is it necessarily the worst card of the year? No. However, I think overall, with the Macy Barber Blanchfield fight, there was zero hype going in. There was zero hype coming out. You feel me? I feel like with Aspinall gone, there was so much hype. This was supposed to be generational. We had that. We had Umar versus Bautista. We had Volkov versus Almeida. We had Ikram on the card. We had Walker on the card.
Which, by the way, Volkov Almeida did not live up to expectations, in my opinion.
I feel like every fight didn't. Like the only fights, every single fight on this card, I feel like made me go, huh. We're like Inoue fighting Amorim. Amorim was minus 600, and Inoue just goes in there and dogs her. Then we got Mitrapozo beating Azat Maxim. Maxim was minus 450. Hamdi Abdel Wahab,
which was unbelievable, by the way. I remember that.
But another fight, it wasn't like exciting. It was kind of dull, but it was just like, oh, weird. Hamdi taking Chris Barnett to a decision, disgraceful. A great fight was Nathaniel Wood, Jose Delgado. No bad things to say about that. That thing was 100%. A banger. Delgado maybe should have won, but Nathaniel Wood has been robbed so many times. I'm okay with him getting a victory. Next, we've got Walter Walker, Louis Sutherland. I was pumped for this one. Ended immediately. Not ideal. Then we've got Ludovic Klein versus Rebecki. Super fun fight, but it was, again, I'm a Rebecki guy, and watching Ludwig break his ankle and knock it up and Rebecki diving on him on the ground instead of saying get up hurt me to my soul, hurt my core.
Okay.
Then we've got Ikram versus Jung Young Park. Kind of bad. Quillen Salkeld absolutely snatches Nazaret's soul. What are you going to do? Mirzakhanov snatches Rakic's soul with a jab. What are you going to do? Okay. Those are the good fights.
Which was the most cheeky jab I've ever seen. I'm like, what in the world just happened?
Yeah, it was super weird. Like, it was all the finishes were odd. The Salkeld one is awesome, but like it was literally like boring. Hey, Nazaret's family owns a bakery. Like it was out of nowhere. And then from that on, the last four fights of the night were so bad or so anticlimactic. It ruined everything. Like it took away Volkov versus Almeida one of the most boring fights I've ever seen. However, I'm happy it was scored by damage.
Right.
Umar versus Bautista. Boring. Like, yeah, Bautista dropped him, sure, but the whole fight was nut hugging. The co-main event. What a fight. What a title fight. Those are the two best women on the planet. Call me crazy. I'll go down to the fucking local supermarket and find someone who could fight these two. And I'm saying that's mean. I love Verna. But like, put those ladies up against Wei Li. They die. They literally die. And then the main event, we got an instant eye poke. Like, we got a 4 minutes in eye poke that ruined the heavyweight title. Like, it's just brutal. And because of this is the butterfly effects from the eye poke. Now we're going to get Pereira versus Gon. Now we're going to get Wei Li has to fight Dern and beat her ass for no reason on live TV. Like, all this stuff is why I hated this event.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, next up. Pre-fight build-up for any one fight, and me and Zan agreed unanimously on this one. It was DDP versus Hamzat.
I mean, dude, like, I mean, you and I were literally in the moment. Like, the amount of Hamzat fans that came through our city was some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like, it was literally an Hamzat army of 90% to maybe 10% DDP. Like, it was like, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was such a one-sided feeling. Like, even the pre-fight press conference, like, the place was just going bananas. Like, I was there as a member of the media.
I was gonna say, this picture right here is the day Zan was a superstar in the UFC.
Yeah, that's correct. It sure is right. But anyway, my point in saying it is, it was so loud that I couldn't even hear myself talk. That's how loud the whole place was. And I don't know, just the countdown show was really well produced, and I don't watch the countdown shows anymore as much as I used to, but I watched that one in full. The cinema in that was insane. And then obviously it's only shown in the arena, but the reception that Chimaev got when he was shown on the screen before the Face the Pain intro was deafening. Like, you couldn't even like you thought you were in Abu Dhabi or somewhere international like that, because it did not feel like that fight belonged in our city, and we were just spoiled, in my opinion, because I can guarantee you that I think Pereira versus Ankh 2, had that been here too, would have gotten a very similar 90-10 reaction, where most of the people there would have been rooting for Pereira instead of Ankalaev. But that's what we got. And overall, I thought it was a pre-fight buildup that I won't forget. And usually, if you can get one of those a year where the pre-fight buildup is that good, then you've usually won. So,
see, and I think, dude, and I feel like, from PFL, the Muslims run deep in Chicago. Anytime these Ukrainians, Russians, UAE, whoever, any Muslims who are headlining these cards, they come out in waves, bro. Like the Amosov fight, the Umalatov fight, the Hamzat fight. Like, you've been to them. Like, they're always nuts.
yeah, they're always nuts for sure.
This was different, though. This was a different level.
No, this was a different level for sure. And I'm trying to think if I've ever been to another fight where a prominent fighter of that religion or
PFL, basically every year they try to have the Russian.
No, I know. I'm just thinking about UFC specifically. I don't think I've ever seen an equivalent. Yeah, and then the closest thing to that, I wouldn't even say PFL. I would say Bellator, when Usman Nurmagomedov defended his title, and I was there for that.
Versus Patrick and Vadim, Nemkov versus Romero, like, that was all Russians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think
no, not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying they come out heavy.
They do.
They're repping their guys. Like,
they do.
I feel like Chicago's fans, it's what UAE should be, which sounds dumb, but it's like it's the fans that come out to support and get loud, and like, it is great environments.
100%. which I think you need more of in bigger metropolitan cities. You need fights like that where people of all different, creeds and backgrounds and all that stuff come to these major fights because as and a lot of people aren't like in Big Boss these days, but when Dana White says you don't need a California guy to sell it in California, or you don't need a Vegas guy to sell it in Vegas in this day and age of promoting fights, he is certainly not wrong. This is a prime example of that. So,
I almost think it's the opposite. Like you put Charles in the States, you put Alex in the States, you put Ilia in Brazil, you put Carlos Prates in the UK. Like those are the names that are selling out.
oh, for sure.
But now we've got the upset of the year. Taken away.
Yeah, so this one is recent, but Peter Yan beating Merab was something I was not expecting whatsoever. I think I only knew one person in my little MMA bubble that thought Peter Yan was going to win, and thankfully he delivered the goods. And out of respect for it, I'm not going to say who it is, but let's just say I know someone who won a considerable amount of money on a Peter Yan upset, and it happened. So that one was really surprising to me. And then obviously yours is another one where if I didn't pick this one, this would have been in the running too. And this is one I called weeks before it even happened. I kept telling you every couple of days that Pereira was going to knock out Ankalaev. You didn't.
And I was all team Ankalaev, but day of, shout out my other podcast partner, Big Verb, lovely guy. He told me, we're walking to the arena. We're at Aria, and he's like,
okay,
imagine Pereira wins, and you don't have a bet on him. And I was like, you're so right. Went in, put $50 on Pereira plus 210. Wallah Habibi, I broke even because of Alex Pereira that night.
We love to hear that.
And he was so right. If that happened and I had money on Ake, I would have put something in my mouth and something would have came out the back. But Alex Pereira, 82nd KO, absolutely vicious, absolutely spectacular, left me riding a high that I've never felt after a UFC event.
Yeah, that's solid. That's solid for sure. Anything else you'd like to tease off or just reflect upon Pereira's regaining of his light heavyweight title in the most epic fashion
I mean, it was
imaginable.
just that card was just such a high and it ending like that. I've been to Vegas a couple times now. I have never left any event with everybody, 20,000 people leaving an arena being like, fuck yes. We're riding heavy tonight. And it felt like the town beforehand was dead. It felt like that Saturday night the town was alive. It was awesome. And I think we're going to end up getting Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane. And boy, oh boy, do I hope Pereira chins Gane.
Yeah, that would be unbelievable if he did, because I think Gane certainly deserves it given his other title failures. So let's get to the last category of the year.
We've got two more. We got two more.
A few more left. We have the UFC Rookie of the Year. This was your ad to this. So what do we think?
So we each picked two debutantes, and to start it off, I picked Quillan Salkild and Malcolm Wellmaker, and Zan got Kevin Vallejos and Bisinger Sursakayev.
Yeah. So obviously these picks are pretty solid, but man, Basinger Sursakayev, I've never seen anything like it. Wins on the Contender Series, calls out Dana White, says he wants to fight immediately. He gets his fight at UFC 319 against a really tough competitor, and I think it was Eric Nolan. You can correct me.
Yep, it was Eric Nolan in Chicago.
Yeah, and that buildup was very interesting. Nolan really didn't have much to say, and Sursakayev went in there and destroyed him. And Vallejos, to this point, has never been in a boring fight, and I'm excited to see what he can do in 2026. Obviously, one of your picks, I would say, is a little bit more on the bias end, which I understand. But Quillan Salkild is one that I didn't think you would say. Can you kind of just break down these two and why you feel these two are worthy?
So You may be right, maybe a little bit biased for Malcolm Wellmaker. But on the flip, I truly believe that Malcolm Wellmaker, I think Kevin Vallejos has a chance to be the best of the four here. But I think Malcolm Wellmaker has the potential to be the best of the four here. I know he lost at MSG 2 days notice against Ethan Ewing. Tough guy, tough debut. Guy we've been following on the regional scene for a while. But I think with very small adjustments, Malcolm Wellmaker's going to be in the rankings just as fast, if not faster, than Peyton Talbot was after his first loss.
Yeah.
And I think Ethan Ewing will be up there too. I think those are three guys that are really good, but I think Malcolm Wellmaker has the most potential out of all of them. And then Quillen Salkill, listen, I was low-key a Quillen hater. I was like, this guy's mid. This guy's mid. Every single fight, he impresses me. Every single fight, I'm like, dang. He's shooting bad takedowns. Those takedowns aren't the best. Boom, head kick. Dang, his striking's not like, oh, it's like not the cleanest, not the street. Beautiful takedown into the grappling submission.
Right.
It's like, man, he's well-rounded. He seems cool, calm, collected in there. He's 3-0. I want to see where he goes. Like, I don't think he's going to be a champion or anything, but I think he has the potential to be in the top 15, you know? I think Bisinger, that's a lock in the top 15 of middleweight, and I think Vallejos is going to be a lock in the top 15 of bantamweight. But by this time next year, I think 3 of the 4 will be ranked.
Fair enough.
Now for the final category of the year. What is the lock of 2026? Zan, take it away.
Yeah, so this one is pretty bold. I'm going to say 2 betting underdogs. I don't know what card it's going to be. I don't know who the fighters will be, but 2 betting underdogs in title fights will pull through on the same event to become and new and that is my bold, holy you-know-what prediction for 2026. I think it's going to be one of those years where every card of the Paramount era, at least to start, is going to leave you going, oh my goodness, I can hardly wait for next Saturday because that card was awesome. So that's what I think.
And for my lock, we were mentioning it earlier, I think there will be at least 25, I meant to say 50, 25 to 50 more submissions in 2026 than there were in 2025. I felt like this year there was a surplus of knockouts after there was such a influx of knockouts from the year before. Like there was so middle, like the gloves, all that stuff. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm dumb. But this year, the knockouts are back.
No, I get it.
They were vicious. The submissions took a backseat. I think next year we're going to have some nasty submissions.
Really? And how many submissions on average per card would you say are possible?
I think we're looking at about 2.5 to 3 submissions a card. I think the numbers are going up.
Okay. And if you were to pick another lock that we didn't get a chance to, if you had a backup lock that you would have used, what would you have said?
Ooh, I think we're gonna end next year with 4 of the current champions maintaining their belts, and I think that'll be Islam. I think it'll be Ilia. I think it'll be Hamzat. And I think it will be Aspinall.
Okay. I think so. This is what I think. So I think in the strawweight division, I think for whatever reason, and this is actually a good segue into the end of the show. So I think at this time next year in 2026, I'm gonna go from heaviest to lightest. We'll be talking about at heavyweight that Alex Pereira is the heavyweight champion. I think at light heavyweight, this is going to be a surprising one, but I think Yuri is the champion. But at this point next year at light heavyweight, I think he resurrects rather light heavyweight. I think in the middleweight division, you will see Dricus Duplessis win his title back because if we think we know what's going to happen with Hamzat Chimaev and him potentially moving up, I think that opens the door for DDP to get his belt back by the end of next year. I think in the welterweight division, Islam Makhachev will still maintain his UFC welterweight title. In the lightweight division, I think actually, and this is going to sound crazy, I think after this Ilia stuff boils over, I'm one of those people that hopes that none of what's going on with him actually really did happen, and I hope the legal process plays out in the way I hope it does. So I actually think Ilia will stay on top at lightweight. And I think, and I actually don't think that Volk is the champion at the end of the year. I actually think the UFC gives in, and I think there's somehow, some way, by some miracle, that it's either going to be Movsar as the UFC featherweight champion, or it's going to be Diego Lopez. So I think it's going to be one of those two. And then looking at bantamweight, I think bantamweight, you have a lot of different options, but I think Merab is going to end up regaining his title, and I actually think he's gonna keep it. And then you keep kind of going down the list. I'd say at flyweight, it's probably going to end up being Manel Kopp. And in terms of the other women's divisions that I didn't mention, I think the champions as they are now potentially will remain the same. The only one I could see changing is if for whatever reason, Whaley is ready to go in of towards somehow Whaley regains her title. But I don't see Kayla Harrison losing her belt at women's bantam for quite some time. So I think there's going to be some movement. There's not going to be a ton of movement, not as much as this year, but there's going to be at least a little bit. So those are the predictions for all my champions by this point next year, December of 2026. So
I love it.
So what do you think?
I think Aspinall will remain champion with Pereira as interim heavyweight champion.
Oh, okay. So explain to me the timeline as to how we get to or then, because I'm curious as to what you think of that.
I think we get Pereira gone in July-ish.
Okay.
And I think we're going to be like, okay, Tom's next. In October of next year, he's going to be like, boy, I need a surgery again, or whatever his fucking accent is. And then he'll be back in March-ish of next year, and they won't strip him. Light heavyweight, I think it's interesting.
And they won't strip him, even though he will have been inactive for a whole year?
I think if they didn't strip John, they can't strip Tom.
Okay.
And light heavyweight, I would love if Yuri became champion, but I think Hamzat is going to be the 205 champion this year. I think Hernandez.
And we missed. And we missed one from a fan. Actually, it was on YouTube. Let's pop it. They say, who's better, Ilia and Makhachev? I just know what you're thinking about this. After you go through your champions, we'll answer that.
Yeah, I'll speed run. I think Hernandez is middleweight champ, Islam is welterweight champ, Ilia is lightweight champ, Diego Lopez featherweight champ, Merab bantamweight champ, Tyra flyweight champ, Harrison, Shevchenko, Whaley. With that, I think it's so hard.
I think it's hard too.
To not pick Ilia Topuria. Because I love Islam. Let me lie. I don't really like either of them. That was a blatant lie.
Do you like them? As are you talking about fighters? Or are you talking about human beings?
Fighters. I think they're fantastic fighters.
Okay.
But I think there are a lot of openings in Islam's game. Like, he makes it so his openings are never able to be like threatened because he is such a threat. His striking defense isn't the best. His wrestling defense is very good. His wrestling's very good, all that. But it's not the same as, like, he's not a shooting for the ankle, shooting for the hips. He's a body-like kind of guy. And I think that is what would have to be done to get Topuria down. However, we have seen time and time again, including when I was at your crib this past week watching Joshua versus Jake Paul, the smaller they are, the harder they are to hit, the harder they are to find. We have found with Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski was his hardest fight. You're telling me if there's a Volkanovski out there who could flatline him in one punch, I got to take Ilia Topuria.
Yeah, I would take Ilia Topuria as well. It's a dream fight. I don't know if it will ever happen now, given what's currently going on, but we can only imagine what that fight could really be like moving forward down the line. But that's going to do it for the year that is 2025 for the year that is the MMA Outsiders. I'm Zain Bando. He's Jack Gold. Jack, any final thoughts before we close the book and turn the page to 2026 when we come back in mid-January? We'll probably come back a week before UFC 324. I don't think we'll come back right away just because the news cycle is still going to be reformulating stuff. But with that said, what do you think as to how the as to how this year kind of ended, what we're looking ahead to in 2026, and just kind of what some of the newer episode timelines will be, if you will.
Yeah, no, I had a great year. I thought it was a very fun, productive year of MMA content, doing stuff. I think doing the show with you, highlight. I love it. Go MMA Outsiders. Next year will be a good year, man. We're gonna come in heavy, coming strong. Get the news flowing the week before UFC 324. And yeah, we're gonna be rocking and rolling in 2026.
Which would mean January 13th. That's a Tuesday. Would be our first show back. That's going to be 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. We'll come back with the twice a week thing. We'll probably do some things a little bit differently this year. We may do some different types of live streams as well. So more fun stuff to come. I don't know what ideas we're going to come up with, but I'm sure we're going to come up with stuff that you're going to like and that's never been seen on the show before. So yeah, we ended with 151. We start the year with 152, which is kind of ironic considering that the UFC this past year started with a 1, and now they're starting this new year with the 2-4. So it's kind of fitting that the promotional calendar is on its own trajectory as well as the show trajectory. But with that said, that's going to do it. Thanks for coming in on a Friday. All 37 of you stayed for an hour and 5 minutes. We greatly appreciate you. We will be back in a couple weeks to talk about everything that's MMA. And until next time, he's Jack Gold. I'm Zain Bando. We're out, and enjoy your New Year's Eve and your New Year. Let's have a great start to 2026, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a good
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.